inside. Step forward. After all, you know me well. Take off your mask now. It's your home. Welcome, little prince. Why the sullen look? Aren't you glad to see me? You finally made it here. It must have taken quite a long time. So, you don't remember me? I'm afraid it might have something to do with the form in which I see you now. This body and soul, they're much different from what I expected. But to answer your question, I am the Weaver. And though it may be hard for you to believe, a part of you knows me all too well. Because it is easier for me to address you this way than to accept that, for now, you are nothing more than a human. It is painful, but I must come to terms with it. It is a place where my prince was woven from the threads of pure potential. The Pale Lady was relentless in her desire to fulfill her vision of an offspring, modeled after those she watched so eagerly. It displeases me that you don't remember. I'd envisioned your return and our meeting quite differently. But now it all makes sense. Now I understand why you need that shard. Nothing remarkable. I simply exist in this place. That you ended up here is a mere coincidence. None of my kind have visited me in a long time. Yet here, I used to weave new Avalonians, shaping them according to the intent and thought that accompanied their creation. Now the thread of potential is much weaker, though it seems this place stirs to life again as the weirdness returns. She was a powerful Avalonian, one of the oldest. She saw and desired far more than the rest of her kin, who were suffocating in their growing decadence. To live a life where one can do anything, it loses all meaning. When she discovered the homelands and learned of mortality and time, everything changed. We were no longer the same. It was as though the mere awareness of such things altered the way we lived. We could no longer exist as we once had. It planted a new emotion in us. Fear. You will find traces of her here as well. The stone tablets bear her mark. I'm afraid I must admit that I don't know where she is now. It seems she retreated into her depths again after your king entered his eternal sleep. The true one, from which mortals are not meant to be awakened. Not like this. The shard of the prince's memory. It is shattered. Much like the fragmented memory of the king that lingers within you. I'd gladly speak with him, but something is preventing him from manifesting. I don't know all the details. What I do know is that after our prince was murdered by our kin, his potential, what you humans might call a soul, did not perish. The prince had been deeply fascinated by humans, and so after his death he manifested in one of them. That person was Arthur, the man who would one day become your king. He followed his mother's fascination. Much like her, he gazed upon the land of men. But he wished to go further. He wanted to experience being human. So he built the menhirs, and to repel the weirdness. For us, the Fore-Dwellers, such a vision was both heretical and terrifying. Some of our kin could not forgive him for it. So, they killed him. It was the first time an Avalonian had ever slain one of their own. Arthur was a man, mortal like any other, but ambitious like few. But yes, his origins are far more complicated. This is a tale of two separate realities that, through a series of specific events, began to intersect, forming a single knot. Everything that has happened, and everything that will happen, is meant to decide the fate of that knot. And we, as you likely already know, have been pulled into all of this. Our meeting comes to an end. I regret how brief it is, but my role in your story was always meant to be insignificant.
There's no greater joy than watching how a son, born of desire, grows. There's no greater despair than watching how a son, born of one's own thought, perishes. And now you stand here, hidden deep within, and even I cannot fathom what my heart feels. Still torn, for you are not wholly him, my son, my prince of Tuathan. Yet there is a flicker of joy within me, for you carry the soul of an Arthur, whose life was chosen for my son. This means the fragments of memory I gathered and kept safe may be saved. The heart, bleeding and plagued, a fragment of me, of my despair, accidentally brought into existence upon the homelands. My tears seeped into your soil, birthing a terror that became inseparably bound to your kind. The Spectre, the Red Death. Unintentionally, I could not have foreseen what such an entanglement of our realities would bring. I could not have known the depths of pain wrought by the loss of a beloved child. When it started to spread, I couldn't find a way to stop it. I am so terribly sorry. Arthur believed that abandoning the homelands would stop the plague. The Red Church committed truly horrific acts in their desperate attempt to halt the blight. Yet, no matter what you humans do, the plague will always return. It's like a curse cast upon your kind. And so, you will drown in my tears. I want my son back. You walk your own path, yet you will be faced with choices. I hope that, among them, you will find a way to bring my son back. However, I cannot impose my will upon you. It took me a long time to understand that not everything should be demanded by force. I believe so. And you are already working tirelessly toward this, whether you realize it or not. Since my son's fate became entwined with that of Arthur, the King of Mortals, it is necessary to reconstruct the soul of the ruler whose essence you carry within your heart. You will also need the fragments of my son's memory. The ones I so carefully concealed for you to find. Beyond that, the Weaver may possess something helpful. His life-giving spindle. It may prove invaluable when the final trial comes. If you manage to find him, take it. He is no longer bound by the places I created for him, where he could work in peace. I have a feeling he may have returned to his workshop, deep within the forlorn swords. It is a tale about the prince of the Fore-Dwellers, who unexpectedly became the king of humankind. Arthur. We are connected. In the homelands, he heard my call from beyond the mist. It guided him to Avalon. I met him during his journey. I gifted him with the sword, the specter of which you now carry within yourself. He is someone very dear to me. Someone I lost decades ago, whose soul found a new body in your lands. As you already know, we found a way to gaze upon the homelands. My son was fascinated by humans. Fascinated by your impermanence and fragility. When one has to deal with entropy and decay, everything suddenly gains far greater significance, doesn't it? He must have desired to live the life of a human. Perhaps it is one of the most powerful manifestations ever achieved by a Fore-Dweller. Oh, the Weaver. I remember the spark of joy that lit up his pale face when he saw what emerged from the threads of weirdness I gifted him. A living being, brimming with such boundless potential, so vibrant with life. He always had a fondness for my child. He called him the Prince. In the homelands, I saw a powerful thing that we Fore-Dwellers lacked. It was love, one of many emotions I had to learn. We lived in a world where everything was potent and possible. It made us live a life where we were drowning in decadence. I longed for something more. Our emotional structure was much less complicated than yours. You were quite an inspiration. Yes, I am fully aware that my will to bring Arthur to the shores of Avalon brought war and ruin upon my own kin. What would you have me say? There are no proper words for this. I will simply fall silent. Draw your own conclusions. Yes, although that was a horribly distorted part of me, living as if it were another life. Now I feel more whole. The emptiness is sharper. The sorrow far more profound. Ah, yes. Bound to Arthur through kinship. They were close enough that some of my despair reached her as well. A different kind, however. She was able to find and gaze into it. I pity her. The fate that befell her is truly dreadful. One aspect of the potential of the weirdness is that it can serve as a tool. For that, I needed a craftsman. Someone who could sense even the thinnest threads of that potential as part of a greater whole. Every Fore-Dweller could manipulate the weirdness to some degree. But not all did so with the finesse of the Weaver. He could harness that potential for something far, far greater, like weaving a new life, for example. My skills lay elsewhere. Among them was the ability to peer beyond the horizon of our civilization, To see a different world. A world without the weirdness. A world filled with meaning and purpose. Constructed through intricate connections. A single living organism, yet full of individuality at the same time. I feel that sometimes you do not realize just how extraordinary your land truly was. Are you sure? If you have anything to ask now. This may be our last meeting before the end of things. I am listening. Are you sure? This may be our last. So, it is done. I am glad my heart could host you. I hope you will succeed in reaching the goal you pursue. You leave this place with another shard. Use the memory of my son wisely. One more thing. That perfect obedience will no longer be your burden. It was never my will, but rather a flawed interpretation by humans, consumed with the madness of the dying. Farewell.
Hold, little prince. The fall. It is already here. Step further and see for yourself. And so you have arrived. I look at you and I feel what you humans call resentment and bitterness. Yes, it consumes me entirely. I feel like I want you to die. I regret creating you. I regret that you lived and still live. I regret that your death, Prince, was not final. Regret. 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 So much regret. If you had never come to be, or if the Pale Lady had not desired to have you, none of this would have come to pass. She looked at the humans and wished to be like them. She wanted to be a mother. You too. Everything that has happened over the last 6 centuries, it is all because of you. It has to end. Your body, your soul, both were bent to carry more than one life, and you chose to keep living. You took it all upon yourself, accepted the burden and claimed the responsibility. Those who carry within yourself have had too great an influence on this world, and you'll be held accountable alongside them. This ends here and now. I'm deeply sorry it has come to this.
Then the prince will ascend and return to his mother. The heart shall cease its bleeding. Through his ascension, the weirdness will be tamed.
I won't let this happen. Not again.
You uncovered the truth buried in the weirdness and used it to return Arthur to where he truly belonged, ending the cycle and securing Avalon's future. The Fore-Dweller mother's heart, no longer bleeding, sealed the wound in the world, and with it, ended the Red Death that had stolen so many lives. And so, the legend of King Arthur began to fade. In its place grew a stronger Avalon, where the weirdness was no longer feared, but understood. With One Eye and Captain Brandon working side by side, the South found a peace it hadn't known in years. The roads stayed open, the fields were guarded, and the people finally felt safe. No longer bound to Camelot or the Knights of the Round Table, it became a land ruled by its own people on its own terms. Because of you, the men here remained and the Kuinact endured, not just as a place, but as a legacy of quiet defiance and hope. Lord Yvain was remembered as a hero who gathered the wise and set out in search of the Grail, while Kuinact stood as a peaceful haven amid the weirdness. You awakened the giants, only to command their end, leaving no power behind for either side to claim. Without their strength, the balance held, but the divide between Camelot and the Dal Rita remained, wide, bitter, and far from settled. Fergus was named the new Galahad the Loyal. With One Eye and Brandon unable to rally the Dal Rita of the Forlorn Swords, the South remained divided. Fergus prepared Camelot's forces to reclaim the region by strength, determined to restore unity through conquest if necessary. The captain led the South to independence, breaking all ties with Camelot. Under his rule, the Horns of the South flourished. Merchants, pilgrims, and adventurers returned to the roads, and prosperity once again reached the far corners of the land. One Eye ruled the South with the Horns of the South at his side. The Dal Rita, the Forlorn Swords, remained divided, leaving the South strong but isolated. Without wider unity, his rule endured for a time. The future beyond his leadership remained uncertain. Nianta left Kuinact with Yvain, and her fate remained unknown. Yet among the people she once served, tales of her devotion and courage endured, and her name was remembered with respect. Maggot left Kuinact alongside Yvain, surprising many who had long considered him harmless and weak. His fate remained unknown, but in time, the people spoke proudly of the last druid, claiming him as one of their own. Oeuvre left Kuinact alongside Yvain, despite concerns about his age. His fate remained unknown, but the people admired him for finding purpose at the end of his life, and spoke of him with lasting respect. Ailey turned to the merchants for support, and for a time the hospital prospered. But when they began charging patients for care, she walked away and opened her own small practice, refusing to serve profit over healing. With Helmi as the new matron, the Volca returned to their former glory with renewed ferocity, their berserkers filled with an aggression that stirred quiet fear among the other tribes. Among the united tribes of the Dal Rita, the Volca were treated with equal parts awe and mistrust, seeming to teeter closer and closer to madness. Ingrid turned away from the eternal sleep, choosing life over dreams. In time, she began to rebuild the Thoid among the living, planting the first seeds of a new future for her scattered people. Under Stronner's leadership, the Ulfra found new strength. He rebuilt the tribe and reunited them with the rest of the Dal Rita, restoring their place among the tribes of the Forlorn Swords. Following Glerna's path, the Sven clung to the old ways, their faith sustained by the Stagfather's living presence within the unrealm of the Hunt. They turned inward, shunning outsiders, and deepened their devotion to the blood-stained rites of their ancestors. You stood as her protector, and the Bee Queen believed you understood her purpose. But from the ruins of Brockmala, her brood now spreads unchecked, and the South must bear the weight of your promise. You accepted the mycelium's offer and let the spores consume Sagramor's body. Now the kingdom lies under fungal control, its people connected, obedient, and slowly fading into the roots that feed the spores. You chose to free the Fore-Dwellers, but captivity had broken their minds. They turned on their savior and were slain. Without the song, the Stone Warden craft ended, and their legacy was lost with the death of the last of their order. After returning to Camelot, Killian lived quietly for a time. When he vanished, few asked questions. Unsettling rumors had always followed him, and most preferred not to remember.